Hello everybody. I think it's about time to go. Welcome to today's call on finding balance. My name's Julia Harris, a Calm Mum coach. What does that mean? It means I help working mums go from stressed and shouty to calm, confident and back in control. Today we're going to cover several key points about finding balance in your life that you can implement right away. Today's webinar is broken down into 4 sections. First one, what is work-life balance anyway? Part 2, what are the consequences of work-life imbalance and the consequences of improving work-life balance? Part 3, what influences our work-life balance? Part 4, what can be done to influence work-life balance? If you haven't used a GoToWebinar before, you should see a sort of pop-up tab on the corner there that will, it's probably a little small one like this. If you see the small version, there is an orange button, and if you click that, then the bigger version pops out like this. The words on it will be different because this is just a screenshot of a one I attended. So once this pops out, you will see a chat box in the bottom there. This call, I'm going to keep you muted on the call. I know there might be some background noises. You might have children that are still up, or your husband might be in and watching TV or something. So it's an interactive call. You'll get the most out of it if you do the exercises as we go along. And if I ask you any questions, or when I ask you any questions, if you just type the answers into that chat box there, it might sort of disappear again, but again you can just make it pop out with this orange button just there. Okay then, let's get started. So, what is work-life balance? Does it even exist? Well, do you remember playing on a seesaw when you were little, and how shifting on your seat or an extra push off from the ground would change the whole action of the seesaw? So one of the dynamics at play with the seesaw is balance. To get started, let's bring some perspective to our own lives, and I'm not going to ask you to get on a seesaw, but I do want you to think about the life that you've lived up to this point and the remaining balance of years ahead of you. So, a little bit of maths. I want you to take your age now and subtract it from 90. So I'm 44, and if I take that away from 90, that leaves me with 46. Add 2 zeros to that number and you get, for me, 4600. Divide that number by 2. For me, that is 2,300. So what's that number then? Well, that is roughly how many weeks you've got left on this earth, assuming you live to the ripe old age of 90, of course. If you smoke and you don't look after yourself though, you can take away 1,200 weeks from that number. Luckily I don't smoke, so I'm going to leave it at the 2,300. But with that number in mind, whatever number you've come out with there, I want you to just do a quick visualization exercise. So just close your eyes for a minute. Take a few slow, deep breaths. So just imagine you're very near the end of your life. You have a few minutes of consciousness remaining to peacefully look back over what you have achieved and the difference you've made in the world and how you will be remembered. How do you want to be remembered? What did you do that mattered? What will you have done that will give you a truly good feeling at the end of your life? How have you been fulfilled? How have you fulfilled your own unique potential? So what was it like then? Open your eyes now, just tell me what that was like. What was that like to think about how many about the number of weeks you've got left on Earth? If you just type that in the chat box. Let's see. Okay, so Sandra said it's a bit of a wake-up call. And Lisa says she didn't like taking the 1200 off there because she smokes. So we rarely think about our lives this way, that we're only here for a short time and we need to focus on what really matters. Thinking deeply about our own life purpose and what brings us fulfillment helps us to align what we're doing currently with what we want to do with the rest of our lives, though. And that creates an awareness about the directions our lives are heading and how we are dedicating our time each day. With that in mind, the questions we need to ask ourselves is whether the lives we're currently living truly reflects where we really want to be. Are the choices we're making, are they getting us to where we want to be? So we're going to do a quick activity. Oh, too fast there. Quick activity. And if you go to activity sheet number 1. So our work-life balance is a lot like the seesaw we saw just over on the other slide. All of our actions, the activities in one area of our life, no matter how big or how small they are, cause a shift somewhere else. Again, it might be a small shift, it might be a big shift, but everything we do causes a shift somewhere. So I want to introduce a definition for work-life balance now that we're going to use for the rest of the call. So in this little box here at the bottom, I want you to write this definition. So work-life balance is the dynamic relationship between achievement, fulfillment, and the factors that influence our choices and decisions in these two areas. So if you just fill that definition box in, and then that means you've got that definition and you can come back to this and you can do the exercises yourself at a later time to see how things have changed. So that definition again: work-life balance is the dynamic relationship between achievement, fulfillment, and the factors that influence our choices and decisions in these two areas. Achievement is generally about doing things, getting things done, meeting goals and obligations. On the other hand, fulfillment is about being. It's about feeling satisfied with relationships and what we're contributing. What do you notice about that definition? What do you notice about that definition and how it applies to your own life? Again, if you just type that into the chat box. Okay, we've got Lisa who says she can see that she concentrates too much on achieving. That's a common one. So what's important then about the need to balance our doing with our being? What does work-life balance mean to you personally? Well, work-life balance looks different for everybody. Now we're going to personalise what it means to you. So if you write, fill in these two labels here, either side of the C. So this side here is achievement. If you label that side achievement and you label the other side fulfillment. And once you've got your labels on, I want you to think of a word or a symbol that represents those two labels and what they mean to you. So what could represent achievement to you? It could be money, it could be a work certificate or recognition or promotion. And what about fulfillment? What does that mean? Is it about love? Is it about friendship? Is it about feeling healthy? Just draw a word draw a symbol or write a word that represents achievement and fulfillment to you. So some examples, like I say, achievement could be money. Let's see. Karen says that achievement to her is a diploma in her studies. Yep. Lisa says it's money. Yep. Love on the fulfillment side. Great. So now we're going to take, we're going to rate your current work-life balance. So again, we'll take a look at activity sheet number 1, and you'll see the person who's standing in the middle. He's standing, should be a picture of a lady really, but never mind. He's standing above a 0, right in the middle, and we've got 10 either side. So ideally, obviously, the balance between achievement and fulfillment would be, it would be equally balanced all of the time. But as we know, balance changes. It's different all of the time. Somewhere we're balanced, sometimes we're not. So I want you to rate your achievement and your fulfillment as you are now, and this is a right now number. Could be totally different in a week or a month's time, but that's why this is good to come back to and to see whether things are getting better or worse. So draw a little mark or write a number on the achievement scale to where you what is your current satisfaction in that area. And again, if you just make a little mark or write a number on the fulfillment side of the seesaw. Is anybody willing to share the numbers in the chat box that they've put down? Okay, we've got a 7 and a 4. We've got a 8 and a 3. We've got a 6 and a 2. Okay, so a lot of different numbers there. As when we were babies, when we were learning to stand, we would fall down a lot. We would discover, we were finding our feet. We were learning about balance. We would learn the consequences of each movement. With time and experience, we would learn to maintain our balance without even having to think about it, without it being difficult. And work-life balance is just like that. It's a dynamic relationship. Each of us has to decide what achievement and fulfillment is going to look like in their own life. Balance is different for everybody. We all want different things. We all enjoy different things. Achievement is different things to all of us. So balance again is different for all of us. Should never compare our lives to somebody else. It's about what is right for us. But if we don't make work-life balance a priority, sometimes the negative influences that fill our lives urge us to say no to work-life balance, and that means we're saying yes to work-life imbalance. Whether we like it or not, that's the way it goes. If we fall into a habit of accepting things that take us out of balance, we have the consequences of imbalance. So what are the consequences of work-life imbalance then, and the consequences or the benefits of improving work-life balance? Work-life balance is, or work-life imbalance is a challenge for lots and lots of us, especially mums and especially working mums. So because of that, there's lots of studies that have been done. So I just wanted to share some data with you quickly. If you take out activity sheet number 2 first of all, so that you can just jot a few things down. Right. Question 1 there, as I read this statement out, if you just fill the blanks in, as it were. So, a study by the career website vault.com reveals that 69% of respondents said that the amount of holiday time they receive is not sufficient. A study by the Families and Work Institute revealed that chronically overworked employees have an adverse effect on business outcomes. They're much more likely to make mistakes, resent their employers, and resent colleagues for not working as hard as they do. Multitasking is a key contributor to employees feeling overwhelmed. Research by the Corporate Executive Board says that only 30% of employees feel they have a good work-life balance. That same research also shows that among 50,000 global workers, they indicate work-life balance as second most important only to financial compensation. So, after listening to that research, what are the implications for each of us, for our families and for the companies that we work for, or for our own companies, our own businesses if we're self-employed? So in question number 2, just make a note of what you think those implications are. If we're living a life of imbalance, what are the implications for us as individuals? What are the implications for our families? And what about work? What is the implication there? Okay, so let's talk about this research as it relates to your view of work-life imbalance. If you go to question number 3 on that same activity sheet and thinking about that research, what does it tell us about the consequences of work-life imbalance and how it relates to your own lives? And if you write that in question 3, so what are the consequences of imbalance on your own lives? Does anybody want to share there? Let's see, so Karen says she's doing things that aren't really important. Lisa says it has a negative effect on other people as well, not spending enough time. Yeah, it means we're just meandering through life with no direction or passion reacting to one thing after another rather than really creating the life that we truly want. And it reinforces this opinion that people have that life happens to us, that we're just a victim of life rather than somebody who can lead our own life. So we've covered how work-life imbalance has clear consequences, especially negative ones, and some of them can be quite serious. You know, they can lead to ill health, they can lead to heart problems, they can be serious consequences if we're leading a work-life imbalance. So let's look at the consequences or the positive results of work-life balance. What happens in our lives when we're actually in balance then? So on that same activity sheet, question number 4 there, what do you think are the consequences of work-life balance? If your life was balanced, what would the consequences be, or what would the positive results be in this case. And again, think in terms of you as individuals, your family, and the companies that you work for, or the businesses that you run. Just make a note on question 4. I'm going to ask you to share that as well. So yeah, less stress, yeah, longer life, more calmness, yeah, better relationships. Okay, great. What about the positive impacts on families then? More time with children, yeah. One of the other really good benefits is that children actually learn from how we behave. You know, they model our behaviour. We learned from our parents. They learn from us. So if you're modelling work-life balance, your children are going to learn that. If you don't want your daughter to grow up and be a totally stressed out working mum because she's trying to do everything, then you have to model work-life balance. So if you can't do it for yourself, think about the impact it's having on people that are looking at you to lead them. What about companies, and what impact does it have on companies? Well, it means a more productive workforce, a happier workforce. It means less stress, and that means less illness, doesn't it? And less sick time. So the key points from that research then is most workers don't feel they get enough holiday time and generally feel overworked. And obviously overworked employees aren't good for business. Research has also shown that the number of workers who feel they have a good work-life balance is dropping. But work-life balance takes effort. It does require paying more attention to our lives than we might be used to doing. It can feel uncomfortable, it can feel awkward, it can feel unnatural at first. But the consequences of continuing with an imbalanced life, when you look at the bigger picture, mean you realise that you can't continue like that. You have to make those changes, no matter how uncomfortable they may seem in the short term. Some people, mums especially, often feel guilty that they're not doing it all. They're not being everything to everybody like they think they should be. But there is no shame, there is no guilt in having a better work-life balance. Like I say, it's modelling the right behaviour to those around you. So to really understand work-life balance, we need to look beyond what we want to achieve and how we want to be fulfilled, and look at the factors that influence our work-life balance. The power to improve your work-life balance lies in your ability to recognise what is minimising your current work-life balance and what you can do to maximise your work-life balance. Before I move on to the next part, I just want to tell you about a special offer that I've got at the moment, which is a complimentary 20-minute Calm Mum Kickstart consultation, where we talk about your challenges and what you can do about them, how you can move forward. You will leave the call with at least one action to take you forward to being calmer, to being less stressed. Whatever the result you need, you'll have one action to move forward with that. So this isn't for people who just want to complain about their situation. This is for people who want to take action, who are ready to take action. It's a valuable opportunity for you to start creating change in your life. So if you want to have that free 20-minute session with me, all you have to do is drop me an email at julia@juliaandjulietalk.com. julia-harris.com. And those consultations have a £69 value, but the slots are limited each month, so make sure you get your email in quickly. So part 3 then, what influences our work-life balance? And if you go back to activity sheet number 1, if work-life balance was easy, we'd have it already, wouldn't we? But it's not easy. It's a dynamic, ever-changing process that can seem very elusive. And there's lots of obstacles in our life that come between us and work-life balance. So in part 2, we looked at some of the consequences of work-life balance or work-life imbalance. And in this section, we're going to dig a bit deeper and identify some of the internal and the external factors that can influence our ability to improve work-life balance. So I want you to do a quick exercise, and I really want you to do this, mind, no cheating, I'll know. I want you to stand up and balance on one leg. So one leg off the ground, 1 foot off the ground, and balance on one leg. And I want you to stay like that for 30 seconds starting now. And I'm just timing you, and I'll let you know when your 30 seconds are up. I have got a good reason for doing this, honestly. Not long left now, just keep that balance, another 10 seconds, another 5 seconds. Okay, you can sit down now. So what things influence your ability or inability to stay balanced then? There are some internal influences. What sort of things could they be? Well, it could be things like you're telling yourself, this is stupid, I don't want to do this. You could be thinking, I haven't got a sense of balance, I can't do this. You could be thinking, I've been standing up all day, I just want to sit down now. So that those internal thoughts and feelings can affect your balance. But there's also external influences that can impact your balance. And it might be something like you're standing on an uneven surface. It may be that somebody bumps into you. So we've got internal and external factors that affect us. I want you to stand up again, and I want you to spend 30 seconds balanced on the other leg. And again, I've got a good reason, honestly, so stand up and I'm counting down now, and just do your best to stay balanced. Another 15 seconds. Not long now. And you can sit down. So this time I want you to consider the internal factors that are positively supporting your ability to stay balanced. So what are the thoughts and feelings that are having a positive influence on that? Anybody want to just type into the chat box for me? Okay, we've got someone saying, I can do this. Yep. When we're imagining positive things, it does have a big impact. If you're telling us, you'll have heard the saying, Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And it's really, really true. If we're saying we can do something, we're much more likely to actually achieve it. But what about the external factors that are at play here? What are the external factors that are positively supporting you and your ability to stay balanced then? Maybe you chose to lean against something. Maybe you had one hand on the desk. Maybe you do a lot of yoga and you just naturally or have learned to have a better balance. So we've been exploring positive and negative influences on our ability to balance, albeit on balance on one leg. It's the same when we're talking about work-life balance. So I want you to stay on activity sheet 1, and I want you to fill in these square boxes in the corners here. And if you write in this top left, if you write positive external influences, and top right, if you fill that in, negative external influences, bottom right, negative internal influences, and bottom left, positive internal influences. So everyone's got various factors that influence their work-life balance. So I want you to identify some of the factors that you feel personally influence your ability to find work-life balance, and we're going to put them, or you're going to put them, into each of the 4 quadrants of your work-life diagram. And remember, we're all individuals, so something that is a positive influence in one person's life might be a negative influence in another person's life. For example, if we think about flexible working, one person might have a really flexible work schedule where their work times are different every week. To them, a flexible work schedule might be a positive influence because it gives them free time during the day to do their shopping or to have lunch with friends, something like that. But for another person, that flexible work schedule might be a negative influence because they have difficulty planning from week to week, or they have childcare issues that would work better with a consistent schedule. So this is why you have to do this exercise. Nobody can tell you how to get work-life balance. It's something that you have to discover for yourself, because your life, your lifestyle, it's unique, and you have to work out which positive and negative influences affect your work-life balance. So if you have a look at the top half of the activity sheet there, activity sheet number 1, and you've got your positive external influences on the left and your negative external influences on the right. And above that, you'll see some general categories. I want you to use those general categories as a guide, really, and put them into one of these 2 quarters. The category might not apply, or you might think of a better word to apply to the category. You might want to have a more specific title for the category. You might not want to include a category at all, but use those categories as a guide and put them into one of these quadrants as either a positive external influence or a negative external influence. So for example, family, that might be a positive external influence because they encourage you to have work-life balance. Again, friends, that might be a positive influence. It might not, it might be a negative one. Again, helpful neighbours, maybe your neighbours are quite happy to look after the children every now and again, which means you can go for a run or something like that. So again, that might be positive external influence. What about negative external influence? Financial issues. Maybe you just maybe you have to have a second job for financial reasons, which puts even more pressure on your time. Maybe it's something like elderly parents. Maybe you have to care for elderly parents, and that takes up a lot of your time, so that has a negative impact, and obviously it's an external influencer as well. So I'm just going to give you a minute to have a think about those categories and where they go, whether they're positive or negative, and which quadrant they actually go to, and whether there's anything else you need to add. I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. Okay, so they are your positive influences or negative influences. They are the external ones. But what you also have is, I just switch slides, you also have internal influences. Again, positive and negative, but they're the internal things that affect our work-life balance. And again, you've got some categories here at the bottom of those potential internal influences. And just like we did in the upper half, I want you to use those categories as a guide and put them into the correct quadrant at the bottom here. And they might not apply, or you might think of a better title or a more specific category. It might not apply to you at all, but just have a think about them and put them in the right place. So a negative internal influence might be your beliefs. Maybe you believe that you should be there for your children 100% of the time when you're not at work. Maybe it's poor health habits. Maybe you're fairly unhealthy, you don't eat right, and that just means you're tired all the time. So you haven't got the energy to do more things that would give you better work-life balance. And on the other side, we've got passions. That could be a positive internal influence. Often if we're really passionate about something, we will make the time to do it. If we've got a hobby, maybe you like painting, or maybe you're passionate about playing an instrument, then we're much more likely to find time to do those passions. So that's a good thing. The fact that we make time, it's time, it's positive time off. That it has a positive influence on our work-life balance. So there could be lots of other things that you put into one of those bottom quadrants. And again, I'm just going to give you another minute to fill that area in. So does anybody want to share some of their influences then in any of those quadrants? What are the implications of the negative influences, and what are the implications of the positive influences? Okay, so one negative influence is a demanding boss. Yep, that's definitely a negative one. And positive influence, yep, supportive family. So the internal influences are the factors that are inside of us, and generally, but not always, they're within our control. So many of these internal influences relate to mindset. Things like limiting beliefs, a victim mentality, poor health habits, or a lack of awareness. Some of the positive or more supportive examples are having a leadership mindset. So maybe you realise it's important to role model that behaviour to others. Maybe it's just a total belief in yourself that this is the right thing to do, work-life balance is the right thing to do. Maybe it's courage. Maybe you are, totally aware of the consequences of not having work-life balance, so maybe you have the courage to challenge that. Sometimes that's what it takes, courage to say, no, that I'm not doing that those extra hours at work. So we've looked at the benefits of improving work-life balance and the factors that support us or distract us from having that balance. So it's time to put that knowledge into action. So what can you do to improve your work-life balance then? Well, once you become aware of the negative influences that affect your work-life balance, you're one step closer to being able to do something about them. Becoming aware of the positive influences means you discover how resourceful you actually are. So if you go to activity sheet number 3, and using the information or the things you wrote down on activity sheet number 1, I want you to identify one negative influence. Can be internal or external, but one negative influence. So it's something you've written down on the right hand side of that seesaw diagram. So it could be something like elderly parents, it could be that demanding boss, but just think of one negative influence, something that is a hindrance to better work-life balance, and just write it in that space in the top left. So this is an influence that you want to work on minimizing or preferably eliminating altogether. If you're not sure which one to choose, think about the one that would give you the biggest shift, or the one that would be easiest to implement. It's important just to choose one for the time being, just to get that momentum going. So it could be something like smoking cigarettes. Maybe smoking is affecting your health, which means you haven't got the healthy energy to do what you want to do to have more work-life balance. Or it could be the cost implications of smoking. Maybe smoking means you haven't got the money to spend on things that you would like to do to give you more work-life balance. So then I want you to identify one positive influence. Again, it can be internal or external from that first activity sheet. So one positive influence that supports a better work-life balance. So choose something off the left-hand side of that sheet and write that in the bottom left square. So let's say it could be something like your love of painting. You know that maybe painting is your passion, and like I say, we find the time, we make the time to do things. Often we make the time to do things that we are passionate about. So it could be, your creativity or your passion that you put in that corner that you make time to do. So that's a positive factor that influences you. So by narrowing your focus and selecting just 2 influences to work on, you don't overwhelm yourself. you can put more effort into making just those changes, and then when you're ready you can pick 2 or more influences to work on, 1 negative and 1 positive to work on at a later stage. But you've got a negative and positive factor on that sheet now. So now I want you to have a think about an action you can take. One action you can take to minimize the negative influence, and one action you can take to maximize the positive influence. So if you said the negative factor you wanted to minimize was smoking, then the action you could take was to ring up your GP to see if you can get a nicotine patch, something like that. And if the positive factor that you wanted to maximize or enhance was painting, you could enroll in a painting class. Maybe it's something that you do but you don't do as often as you would like. So if you enroll in a painting class, that might give you more momentum to do more of it too. If we've got somebody else expecting us to go along to a class, then we might make an effort more than we would if we were just going to do something on our own. So who would like to share what they came up with when they were selecting a negative and positive influence? Okay, nobody wants to share, that's fine. So having a think about those thinking about those negative and positive factors makes it much easier to identify just one action, just one small step that you can do. And you might think, well, that's no big deal, but it's starting the ball rolling, it's getting momentum, that's important. It's taking action, and once you see you've achieved one small step, you're going to have much more motivation to keep on, which is why these action sheets, keep them handy. You can go back to them time and time again to keep building on what you've actually done so far. So work-life balance represents your relationship to 4 aspects of life: achievement, fulfillment, external influences and internal influences. And you can create a better balance through identifying what achievement and fulfillment looks like for you and what you need to do to create a satisfying balance for yourself. Remember, there is no prescription for better work-life balance. Nobody can tell you what you need to do. This is about finding out what's right for you. It's about what works for you, what fits in with your lifestyle, your thoughts, your beliefs. So we're almost at the end there, and some of you have had some really good shifts during the class in identifying the positive and the negative influences on your work-life balance. But like I say, this is just an example of what you can gain by working on this process. This is something that you have to work at. It's dynamic. It's a constant balancing act. It's looking at the decisions you make day in, day out, and how they can affect your bigger life, how they affect the bigger picture. So the benefits of work-life balance include less stress, better health, better relationships, more peace. And once you're really clear about the factors that influence your work-life balance, and you really have that awareness of how you can control them, it means you can start taking the steps you actually need to take to continually improve your work-life balance and doing what you need to do to get the balance that is right for you, and to devise a strategy to minimize the negative and accentuate the positive influences. So that's it for today. I want to thank you all for joining me on the call. I hope you found this information useful. Remember, it's not something that is going to change overnight. It's something that you have to work on. It's something that you have to take a step back, look at your life, look at the decisions you're making, look at what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to, and the consequences, the bigger consequences of that, and the actions you can take to improve that situation. So as you know, I'm a coach. I work with working mums who are feeling stressed and shouty and want to feel calm, confident and back in control. So just to remind you of that complimentary 20-minute Calm Mum Kickstart consultation. Limited slots available, so get your email to me now, julia@julia-harris.com. Promise you, you will leave the call feeling motivated, inspired, and with at least one step that you can start taking action fast. And we'll talk about the hidden challenges that are keeping you stressed, shouty, feeling guilty, whatever your particular challenge is. So that's it. Thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.